I hit Cedarville around 2 in the afternoon with a U-Haul rattling behind my Subaru, and no real plan past finding the rental house. The trailer had developed this grinding noise somewhere after Susanville, probably a wheel bearing going bad. But I wasn't about to stop and deal with it. I just needed to get there, unload, start over. The job offer sitting in my email was the kind you don't trust. Solar project admin work, decent pay, benefits that looked real but felt too good for a place this remote. I'd read the contract 3 times looking for the catch. Couldn't find one. That should have been reassuring. It wasn't. But I needed out of Sacramento. That was the main thing. The whistleblower case had been clean on my end. I'd followed protocol, reported the loan fraud exactly how compliance training said to, kept copies of everything. Didn't matter. Management made it clear I was the problem, not the VP who'd been cooking approvals for his buddy's developments. They didn't fire me. They just made the job unworkable, moved my desk twice in a month, reassigned my accounts, started ceasing me on emails about cultural fit and team cohesion. I lasted 6 weeks before I stopped showing up. So, yeah. Solar admin work in the middle of nowhere sounded fine. The commute to Alturas would be 40 minutes each way, but I'd done worse. Cedarville itself looked clean when I rolled through Main Street. Too clean, maybe. The kind of place where someone pressure-washed the sidewalks and kept the flower boxes watered even though half the storefronts were empty. I passed a diner, a general store, a post office that shared space with some kind of insurance agency. Everything had fresh paint. Everything looked maintained. But the empty windows bothered me. Not boarded up, just vacant. Like the businesses had closed recently enough that no one had figured out what to do with the spaces yet. Or maybe they were waiting for something. I turned off Main onto Ponderosa Avenue and followed it east. The houses out here were small, older builds from the 70s or 80s. Most had decent yards, chain-link fences, pickups parked in gravel driveways. The address Holly Davis had sent me was at the end of the block. 1623. Ponderosa. A pale yellow single story with white trim and a covered porch. I pulled into the driveway and killed the engine. The U-Haul shuddered to a stop behind me. The house looked fine. Better than fine, honestly. The roof was newer, the gutters were clear, and someone had planted lavender along the front path. For $800 a month it was almost suspicious, but I'd already signed the lease and wired the deposit. Too late to back out now. I sat there for a minute, hands still on the wheel. This was it. Fresh start. New job. Quiet town. I could make this work. I got out and stretched. My back hurt from 5 hours of driving, and my knee was stiff from holding the gas pedal steady on the long grade past Honey Lake. The air smelled like pine and dust. No traffic noise. No sirens. Just wind moving through the trees at the edge of the property. A white sedan pulled up behind the U-Haul. Honda Accord, maybe 10 years old, meticulously clean. A woman got out holding a clipboard and a manila envelope. Holly Davis. Had to be. She looked exactly like her email signature photo. Ash blonde hair, pressed blazer, expression that said she had 4 more appointments today and didn't want to be late for any of them. James Stevenson, she said, not a question. That's me. She walked up the driveway and stopped a few feet away, looking me over once. Professional assessment. Then she glanced at the U-Haul. You're unloading today? That's the plan. Good. I'll walk you through the property basics and get you the keys. This shouldn't take long. She moved toward the porch and I followed. She didn't make small talk. Didn't ask how the drive was or whether I'd been to Cedarville before. Just opened the manila envelope and pulled out a key ring and a stapled packet of papers. Lease terms are standard, she said. Trash pickup is Wednesdays. Propane tank is full. If you need a refill, call ahead to the general store and they'll coordinate. Water heater is in the hallway closet. Don't touch the pressure valve unless you know what you're doing. I nodded. She handed me the keys. Anything else I should know? I asked. She paused on the top porch step and turned around. Her expression shifted. Still serious, but something else underneath. Careful, maybe. "There's a dish near the steps," she said. "Rock salt. It stays there." I looked where she was pointing. Sure enough, a shallow ceramic dish sat on the porch boards about 2 feet from the front door, filled with coarse white salt. The dish itself was plain, off-white, the kind of thing you'd use for pet food or spare change. "Okay," I said. "It's not decorative." "Got it. It has to stay exactly where it is. Don't move it. Don't empty it. If it gets low, add more. You can buy rock salt at the general store." I waited for her to explain why. She didn't. "Is this a pest thing?" I asked. "It's a local custom," she said. Her tone didn't invite follow-up questions. "You'll want to keep it maintained." "Sure, no problem." She handed me the lease packet. "Sign the last page and mail it back to the P.O. box on the letterhead. First month's rent is due on the 1st. Any issues with the property, call the number on page 2. "Thanks." She walked back down the steps and headed for her car. Didn't say goodbye. Just got in, backed out, and drove off. I stood there on the porch looking at the dish of salt. It sat in a slight depression in the wood, like it had been there long enough to leave a mark. The salt itself looked fresh. No dirt, no moisture. Someone had filled it recently. Odd local custom. Fine. Every place had its quirks. Sacramento had those weird racks of scooters no one ever rode. Reno had the divorce folklore. Cedarville had salt dishes. I unlocked the front door and stepped inside. The place smelled clean. Faint bleach, fresh paint, something lemony. The living room was small, but the layout made sense. Hardwood floors, a brick fireplace, 2 windows facing the street. The kitchen was dated. Laminate counters, white appliances, but everything worked. I checked the faucet, the stove, the fridge. All fine. The bedroom was at the back of the house. Decent size, closet with sliding doors, another window looking out at a yard that needed mowing. The bathroom had older tile, but the grout was clean, and the shower pressure was good. It was better than I'd expected. Honestly, it was better than my last apartment in Sacramento, and that had cost twice as much. I walked back out to the porch and looked at the U-Haul. Probably 30 boxes, a futon, a desk, a couple of lamps. Not much. I'd sold or donated most of my stuff before leaving. Easier that way. I grabbed the first box, books heavy, and carried it inside. This could work. Quiet town, decent job, cheap rent. I didn't need anything complicated. Just a reset. A place where no one knew about the whistleblower case or the emails or the reassignments. A place where I could show up, do the work, and go home. The salt dish caught my eye again as I went back for the second box. It has to stay exactly where it is. Holly's voice had been flat when she said it, but there'd been weight behind the words. Not a suggestion, a requirement. I picked up another box and hauled it inside. Whatever the salt was about, I'd figure it out later. Right now, I just needed to unload the truck and get settled. One thing at a time. That was the plan anyway. I finished unloading the U-Haul around 8:30. My back felt tight and my hands smelled like cardboard dust. I'd stacked most of the boxes along the living room wall without opening them. Didn't see the point in unpacking everything when I wasn't sure how long I'd stay. The futon sat in the middle of the bedroom floor, still wrapped in moving blankets. The desk leaned against the hallway wall. I figured I'd deal with it tomorrow. I ate a protein bar I found in the glove compartment and drank tap water from a coffee mug I'd pulled out of one of the kitchen boxes. The water tasted fine. A little metallic maybe, but cold. I stood at the sink looking out the window over the backyard. Couldn't see much, just darkness and the shape of a fence line. The house was quiet in a way Sacramento never was. No car alarms, no bass from someone's speakers 3 floors down. Just the hum of the fridge and sometimes a creak from the floorboards when I shifted my weight. I kind of liked it, or I thought I would once I got used to it. I took a shower, The pressure was better than I expected. I stood under the hot water until my shoulders loosened up a little, then got out and brushed my teeth. I didn't have towels unpacked, so I used a t-shirt from one of the boxes. That was fine. I set up the futon enough to sleep on it. Pulled the blankets out, found a pillow. The bedroom window faced the backyard, and I left the blinds open because there was nothing out there to see in from. I plugged my phone in on the floor next to the futon and checked the time. 9:43. Early for me, but I was tired in that deep way where your legs feel heavy. I turned off the light and lay down. Stared at the ceiling for a while. My brain was doing that thing where it wouldn't shut off, even though my body was done. I kept thinking about the salt dish on the porch. The way Holly's voice had flattened out when she mentioned it, the depression in the wood underneath it. Probably nothing. People had weird habits in small towns. I'd read somewhere that some places still put horseshoes over doors or planted certain flowers to keep deer away. This was the same kind of thing. Local superstition dressed up as custom. I closed my eyes. I didn't check the porch before bed. Didn't think about it. I woke up because I needed to piss. The room was dark, and it took me a second to remember where I was. Not my apartment. Not the hotel in Susanville where I'd stayed the night before. Cedarville, the rental house. Right. I got up and went to the bathroom without turning on the light. Flushed, washed my hands, walked back through the hallway, and that's when I saw it through the living room window. The porch light was off. I hadn't turned it on, but there was enough moonlight that I could make out the shape of something on the doormat. Something that hadn't been there earlier. I stood in the hallway for a second. Then I walked to the front door and flipped on the porch light. A piece of paper, white, letter-sized, folded once. There was a smooth gray river stone on top of it, about the size of my palm, holding it flat against the doormat. I unlocked the door and opened it. The air outside was cold. I could see my breath a little. I picked up the stone first. It was heavier than it looked, and set it on the porch railing. Then I grabbed the paper. It was regular printer paper. I unfolded it. Typed text, clean margins, no heading, no signature. I stepped back inside and locked the door behind me. Turned on the living room light. Stood there in my boxers and t-shirt holding the paper. It was a list, bullet points, maybe a dozen of them. The first one said something about keeping the salt dish full. The second one mentioned not answering the door after midnight on Wednesdays. I skimmed the rest without really reading. Something about the general store, something about marked houses. At the top of the page, above the list, there was a single line in bold. You have until Friday. Learn these. At the bottom, after the last bullet point, the town won't help if you make things worse. I read that part twice. Then I folded the paper back up and set it on the kitchen counter. Okay, so this was some kind of neighborhood hazing thing. New guy moves in, locals try to freak him out with cryptic rules and vague warnings. I'd heard about stuff like this. Small towns got bored. They messed with outsiders for entertainment. Probably Holly was in on it. Probably half the street was watching to see if I'd panic or start asking around. I wasn't going to give them the satisfaction. I left the paper on the counter and went back to bed. Checked my phone on the way. 11:58. I set it back down on the floor and pulled the blanket up. The wind picked up outside. I could hear it moving through the trees at the edge of the property. The window frames made a faint ticking sound when the gusts hit a certain way. I closed my eyes and focused on my breathing. In through the nose, out through the mouth. Slow and steady. I almost fell back asleep. My phone buzzed. I opened my eyes. The room was still dark. The buzzing stopped, then started again. Short burst, stop. Another buzz. I reached down and grabbed the phone off the floor. The screen was bright enough that I had to squint. 12:41 a.m., but that wasn't the weird part. The top of the screen said, "No service" in small gray letters where the carrier name usually was. And underneath that, there was an incoming call notification. The caller ID said my own number. Not unknown or blocked, my actual number. The same 10 digits I'd had for 6 years. I stared at it. The screen went dark. Then it buzzed again and lit back up. Same thing. My number. No service. I didn't answer. The call cut off. 2 seconds later, it started again. Same pattern. Buzz, light up, my number. Stop. Buzz again. It felt like someone testing a latch, trying the handle, checking if it would give. My hand was tight around the phone. I could feel my pulse in my thumb where it pressed against the side of the case. The wind hit the window frame again. That ticking sound. Soft but regular. The call stopped. Started. Stopped. I sat up. I wasn't going to sleep through this. And I wasn't going to sit here holding my phone while it buzzed every 10 seconds with a call from myself on a network that didn't exist. I got up, still holding the phone. Walked to the kitchen. The paper was still on the counter where I'd left it. I turned on the overhead light and unfolded it. The buzzing stopped. I looked at the screen. No missed call notification. No record of anything. Just the time, 12:43, and the no service message. I set the phone face down on the table and sat down in one of the chairs. Then I read the rules. Slowly this time, all the way through. I sat at the kitchen table with the paper flat in front of me and read through the whole thing again. This time I wasn't looking for the punchline. I was reading it the way I used to read compliance documents at the bank, one line at a time, checking for what it actually said instead of what I wanted it to say. First rule, keep a bowl of rock salt on your porch. Never let it get wet. Refill it when it gets low. Don't move it from where it sits. That one I already knew about. Holly had made sure I understood that part. Second rule, don't look outside between 1:11 and 1:17 a.m. Not through windows, not through blinds, not even a glance. If you're awake, stay away from anything that faces the street. I checked my phone. 12:51. Still face down on the table where I'd left it. Still showing no service in the corner. Third rule, if someone knocks on your door between 1:11 and 1:17, go to the kitchen and put both hands flat on the refrigerator. Keep them there until the knocking stops. Don't speak. Don't look. My chest felt tight reading that one. Probably because I was sitting in the kitchen and it was almost 1 in the morning and the whole house was quiet enough that I'd hear knocking from any room. Fourth rule, never step on the pale strips in the street. They look like someone drew lines with chalk, but they're not chalk. Cross the street if you have to. Go around the block. Don't step on them. I hadn't seen any pale strips. Then again, I'd driven in during the day and hadn't walked around the neighborhood yet. Fifth rule, if you see a man in a reflective vest standing completely still in the middle of the road, go into the nearest bathroom immediately and run the faucet. Keep it running until you hear a car pass. Don't look at him again. That one didn't make any sense. None of them made sense, but that one especially. What kind of rule was that? Why a bathroom? Why the faucet? Sixth rule, don't say the old name of the town out loud. Not in your house, not on the street, not anywhere inside town limits. If someone asks what the town used to be called, say you don't know. I didn't know what the old name was. I'd looked up Cedarville before driving out here and hadn't seen anything about a name change. Maybe it was something local. Maybe it was older than the internet gave a shit about. There were a few more. Don't leave shoes on the porch overnight. Don't whistle after dark on Sundays. If you find a coin on your doorstep, leave it there for 3 days before picking it up. Then the last one, separated from the others by a blank line. Bold text again, same as the heading at the top. If you break a rule, drive to the cemetery on Palmer Road before sunrise and leave your house key on the front gate. Do not go home. I read that one 3 times. Do not go home. Not come back later or wait until morning. Do not go home. Period. I folded the paper in half, then unfolded it and smoothed it flat again. My hands were steady. That surprised me a little. I'd expected them to shake maybe, or for my pulse to kick up the way it did during the bad weeks at the bank when I knew they were building a case to fire me. But I just felt tired. Tired and annoyed and backed into a corner I didn't ask for. The rules were specific. That's what bothered me. If this was hazing, if it was some elaborate small-town prank, the details were too tight, too internally consistent. Someone had spent time on this. Someone wanted me to take it seriously. Or someone wanted me to freak out and leave. I thought about Holly again. The way she'd pointed out the salt dish without explaining it. The way she'd left before I could ask follow-up questions. The lease packet she'd handed me with the P.O. box for correspondence. No direct number for her. Just the property management line. I pulled the lease packet off the counter where I'd left it and flipped to the second page. The number listed under maintenance requests had a 530 area code. Local, I didn't call it. It was almost 1 in the morning and I wasn't about to give anyone the satisfaction of hearing me rattled at this hour. Instead, I got up and walked to the living room window. Porch light was still on. I could see the street through the glass, empty, quiet, a little wind moving through the trees at the edge of the property. No cars, no movement, no pale strips that I could see from here. But the angle was wrong and the light didn't reach that far. I checked my phone again. 1:04. 7 minutes until 1:11. I stepped back from the window. It's not real, I thought. It's a stupid prank and you're letting it get in your head. But my feet had already moved. I was already standing in the middle of the living room instead of near the glass, and I didn't go back. I walked to the bedroom, checked that the blinds were closed all the way, then did the same in the bathroom. When I got back to the kitchen, I turned off the overhead light and sat in the dark with my phone face up on the table. 1:09. The screen dimmed after a few seconds and I tapped it to keep it lit. 1:10, 1:11. I kept my eyes on the phone, didn't look toward the windows, didn't move except to tap the screen when it started to dim. Nothing happened. No knocking, no sounds outside. Just the wind and the faint hum of the fridge next to me and my own breathing. Slower now, almost normal. 1:12, 1:13. I felt like an idiot sitting in the dark staring at my phone because a piece of paper told me not to look outside. I felt like the kind of person who forwarded chain emails and checked horoscopes and bought lottery tickets with birth dates on them. 1:14. 1:15. My thumb hovered over the screen. 1:16. 1:17. I waited another 30 seconds, then got up and turned the kitchen light back on. Everything looked the same. Table, counter, boxes stacked against the wall, the paper still sitting where I'd left it, creased down the middle. I walked to the front window and looked out. The street was empty. Porch light still on, salt dish right where Holly had told me to keep it. No one standing in the yard. No cars idling at the curb. Nothing. I went back to bed. Thursday, I woke up at 7 with sunlight coming through the blinds and my back sore from the futon. I lay there for a minute staring at the ceiling, then got up and checked my phone. Full service. 4 bars. No missed calls, no weird notifications. Just the normal lock screen with the time and date, and a text from my sister in Reno asking how the move went. I didn't answer it yet. I got dressed, brushed my teeth, and went to the kitchen. The paper was still on the table. I picked it up, folded it into quarters, and put it in my pocket. Then I grabbed my keys and went outside. The air was cold and sharp, the kind of high desert morning cold that gets into your chest when you breathe. The sky was clear, no clouds. I walked down the porch steps and looked at the street. No pale strips, just asphalt, a little cracked in places with gravel along the edges where the pavement stopped. I walked to the end of the driveway and looked both ways. Nothing unusual. A couple of houses down the block, a car in someone's driveway, a trash bin sitting by the curb. I got in the Subaru and drove into town. Main Street looked the same as it had when I arrived, clean, maintained, half empty. I passed the diner, the post office, a building with a faded sign that said Modoc Insurance. The general store was near the end of the block, windows clean, gravel parking lot out front. I parked and went inside. The place smelled like coffee and old wood and something faintly sweet I couldn't place. Shelves lined the walls, canned goods, dry pasta, paper towels, the kind of stock you'd expect from a small-town store that doubled as the only supply spot for 20 miles. A couple of aisles in the middle. A counter at the back with a register and a woman standing behind it. She looked up when I walked in. 50s, maybe. Short, curly hair, reading glasses, an apron over a sweater. "Help you?" she said. "I need a propane refill," I said. "For the house on Ponderosa." She nodded. "Tank out back?" "Yeah." "I'll call it in. You can pick it up tomorrow." "That works." She wrote something on a pad of paper next to the register, then looked at me again. Her expression didn't change, but I got the sense she was waiting for something. I pulled the folded paper out of my pocket and set it on the counter between us. "I got this last night," I said. "Someone left it on my porch." She looked at it, didn't pick it up, didn't unfold it, just looked. "You read it?" she asked. "Yeah." "You believe it?" I didn't answer right away. She kept her eyes on me, not the paper. "I don't know," I said. She nodded slowly. "That's smart. Is it real?" "Real enough." "Well, what does that mean?" She glanced toward the front window, then back at me. "Means people don't joke about it. Means if you follow what's on that page, you'll be fine." "And if I don't? Then you won't." Her voice was flat, matter of fact, the same tone Holly had used when she told me not to move the salt dish. I picked the paper up off the counter and put it back in my pocket. She didn't stop me, didn't reach for it or ask to see it again. "Propane will be ready tomorrow," she said. $42. Pay when you pick it up." "Okay." I turned to leave, then stopped. "Do you have rock salt?" "Aisle 2, she said. "By the cleaning supplies." I found it. 5-pound bag, plain white label. I brought it to the counter and she rang it up without comment. $6 even. I paid cash. She handed me the receipt and met my eyes for just a second. "Keep it dry," she said. I nodded, then I left. Lauren nodded toward the back of the store. "Dalton's at the hardware counter," she said. "He can help with what you need." I followed her gaze past the aisles of canned goods and cleaning supplies to a raised counter near the rear wall. A guy stood behind it, maybe early 50s, broad shoulders under a faded work shirt with a name patch I couldn't read from where I was standing. He had his arms crossed, looking at something on the counter in front of him. "Thanks," I said. Lauren didn't answer. She'd already turned back to her register, already done with me. I walked toward the hardware counter, weaving past a display of work gloves and a rack of extension cords. The guy behind the counter looked up when I got close. Steel blue eyes, graying hair cut short, weathered face with deep circles under his eyes. He looked tired, not coffee tired, tired in a way that had settled in and wasn't going anywhere. "Help you?" he said. "Yeah, I'm new in town. Rented a place on Ponderosa." I pulled the folded paper from my pocket and set it on the counter between us. "Got this the other night." He glanced down at it but didn't unfold it, didn't touch it, just looked at it for a second, then back at me. "Dalton," he said. "James." He nodded once. "You read it?" "Yeah." "You believe it?" I hesitated. That was the question, wasn't it? "I don't know what I believe," I said. "But I'm here asking about it, so." Dalton picked up the paper, unfolded it, skimmed it like he'd seen it before. Probably had. He set it back down and pushed it toward me. "It's not superstition," he said. His voice was flat, matter of fact, like he was explaining how to change a tire. It's a schedule. Things happen on a schedule here. You follow the rules, you stay out of the way when you're supposed to. That's it. A schedule for what? For what happens? He said it like that was enough of an answer. Maybe it was. You follow them. It doesn't matter for what. You don't follow them, you'll find out. And that'll be worse. I stared at him. He didn't look away, didn't blink, just stood there with his arms crossed again, waiting for me to say something. Okay, I said finally. So what do I need? That got a reaction. Not much of one, but his posture shifted a little. Less tense. Rock salt, he said. You'll go through it faster than you think. I'd get 2 bags to start. There's a bathroom fan on the list too, right? The cheap kind with the timer. And a pry bar. Iron, not steel. I hadn't expected specific recommendations. I thought he'd tell me to leave or call me paranoid or laugh. Instead, he was giving me a shopping list. Why iron? I asked. Just get iron, he said. You need help installing the fan? I can handle it. Good. Rock salt's in aisle 3. Fans are over there. He pointed to a shelf near the front. Pry bars here. He turned and pulled one from a pegboard behind him, set it on the counter. It was about 1 foot long, flat black, heavier than it looked when I picked it up. This everything? I asked. For now. He rang up the pry bar, wrote something on a slip of paper. Bring this up front when you grab the rest. Lauren will get you sorted. I took the slip in the pry bar, started to walk away, then stopped. Does it work? I said. Following the rules. Does it actually work? Dalton looked at me for a long moment. You're still asking questions, he said. That means you've got time to get it right. Don't waste it. That was it. He went back to whatever he'd been looking at before I walked up, and I went to aisle 3. The rock salt came in big bags, 25 pounds each. I grabbed 2 like he said, then found the bathroom fans. Cheap plastic housing, basic timer dial on the front. $12. I took one. Carried everything up to the register where Lauren rang me up without comment, and I paid $43 for supplies I still wasn't sure I believed I needed. But I had them. That was something. Practical steps. Concrete actions I could take. It made the whole thing feel manageable, like a problem I could solve if I just followed the instructions correctly. I loaded everything into the Subaru and drove home. Friday morning I woke up at 6:30 and went straight to the porch to check the salt dish. It was damp. I stood there staring at it, coffee mug in one hand, door half open behind me. The salt was clumped together in spots, turning gray where it had absorbed moisture. Some of the grains stuck to my fingers when I touched them. It hadn't rained. I'd checked the weather yesterday. Clear skies all week. I looked up at the porch roof. Solid. No leaks, no watermarks, nothing dripping. I crouched down and ran my hand over the wood around the dish. Dry, completely dry. Just the salt was wet. I dumped it over the porch railing into the flower bed, watched the clumps break apart in the dirt, picked up the dish and carried it inside, dried it with a paper towel until it was completely clean, no moisture left anywhere. Opened one of the rock salt bags from yesterday and refilled the dish. Poured it careful and slow until it was level with the rim. Carried it back outside and set it down in the exact same spot in the depression in the wood where it had been sitting for who knows how long before I got here. The salt looked fresh now, white and dry and normal. I went back inside and got ready for work, and the whole time I could feel the irritation sitting in my chest like something I couldn't cough up. The solar project office was 40 minutes east in Alturas, a single-story building with vinyl siding and a gravel parking lot. My desk was in the back corner near the window. I spent most of Friday reviewing spreadsheets, checking contractor invoices against purchase orders, making sure the numbers matched. It was easy work, boring work, The kind of thing I could do on autopilot while my brain chewed on other problems, like why the salt had been damp. Like whether Dalton actually believed what he'd told me or if this was some kind of long con the whole town was in on. Like whether I should have just stayed in Sacramento and dealt with the fallout instead of running to the middle of nowhere and renting a house with rules. I didn't have answers for any of it, so I kept working, finished the invoices by 3, sent the report to my supervisor, and drove home while the sun dropped toward the mountains and the sky turned orange behind me. I ate a frozen dinner, unpacked 2 more boxes, installed the bathroom fan, which took 20 minutes and only required a screwdriver. I put the pry bar in the coat closet near the front door where I could reach it fast if I needed to. I didn't know why I'd need to. Dalton had said to get it, so I got it. By 11, I was in bed with the lights off, staring at the ceiling and telling myself I'd sleep fine. I didn't. I lay there and watched the clock on my phone tick forward. 11:30, 11:45, midnight, 12:30. At 1:09 a.m., the smoke detector chirped. Just once. A single clipped alarm tone, sharp and metallic, like someone had pressed the test button and let go immediately. I froze. My whole body went stiff under the blankets, hands clenched into fists. Breath stopped halfway through my lungs. I stared up at the dark ceiling where the smoke detector was mounted near the hallway, and my brain caught up a second later with exactly what time it was. 1:09. 2 minutes until 1:11. I started toward the hallway, got halfway there and stopped. My hand was already reaching for the light switch. My body wanted to check the smoke detector, see if the battery was loose or if something actually triggered it. That's what you do when a smoke alarm chirps. You check it. But the rules said don't look outside between 1:11 and 1:17. The detector was in the hallway, near the ceiling, right next to the window that faced the street. I pulled my hand back and stepped into the bedroom instead, keeping my eyes on the floor. Didn't look at the window, even though the blinds were closed. My phone showed 1:10 now. 1 minute. The house went quiet. Not normal quiet. Not the kind where you hear the fridge humming or the floor settling or wind outside. This was different, heavier. The air felt like it was holding still on purpose. I sat on the edge of the futon and stared at my phone. 1:11. Nothing happened. I kept my eyes on the screen, watching the seconds tick forward in the corner. My chest was tight and I realized I'd been holding my breath, so I let it out slow and tried to breathe normal. In through the nose, out through the mouth. The porch light was visible through the gap under the bedroom door, just a faint yellow line where the light bled into the hallway. I watched it without meaning to. It dimmed, just for a second, like someone had put their hand over a bulb. Then it came back. I didn't move. It dimmed again, slower this time. The yellow line under the door faded to almost nothing, then brightened back up over the course of maybe 3 seconds. My phone said 1:12. I thought about the bulb. It was LED. Holly had mentioned that when she handed over the keys, said the porch light was on a timer and used an LED bulb so I wouldn't need to replace it anytime soon. LEDs don't flicker. They either work or they don't. No gradual dimming unless the power supply is failing, and even then it wouldn't cycle like that. 1:13. The knocking started. 3 taps. Clean and evenly spaced. Not loud, not soft, just deliberate. Pause. 3 more taps, same rhythm, same volume. I stood up. My legs moved before I thought about it. The rules said if someone knocks during 1:11 to 1:17, go to the kitchen, put both hands flat on the refrigerator, keep them there until the knocking stops. Don't speak or look. I walked straight to the kitchen and didn't turn on the light. The fridge was right there, humming faintly in the dark. I pressed both palms flat against the door. The metal was cold, too cold, like it had been sitting outside instead of in a 70-degree room. The kind of cold that makes your palms ache after a few seconds. I kept my hands there. The knocking moved. It left the front door and traveled along the wall. I could hear it shifting. Still the same 3 taps, pause, 3 taps pattern. But now it was coming from the side of the house, the living room wall, then farther back, toward the bedroom. It circled. I stood with my hands on the fridge and listened to it trace the perimeter of the house. The taps moved along the siding with that same steady rhythm, never faster, never slower. It reached the back door and paused there for maybe 10 seconds. Then it kept going. The kitchen window was right next to me, above the sink, maybe 3 feet from where I stood. The knocking reached it. 3 taps, right on the glass, close enough that I could have turned my head and seen whatever was making the sound. I didn't look. My shoulders were cramping. I'd locked them up without realizing it, pulled tight and high like I was bracing for something to hit me. The cold from the fridge had spread up my forearms and my palms were starting to go numb, but I kept them flat and didn't move. The knocking stayed at the window. 3 taps, pause. 3 taps, pause. 3 taps. It didn't move on. I counted the cycles in my head. 5 rounds, 6. My phone was still in the bedroom, so I couldn't check the time, but it had to be close to 1:17 by now. Had to be. The knocking stopped. I waited. Counted to 30 in my head. Nothing. I peeled my hands off the fridge and flexed my fingers. They were stiff and red, where they'd been pressed against the metal. I walked to the bedroom, grabbed my phone, checked the screen. 1:18. I went to the front door and looked through the peephole. The porch was empty. Light was on, steady now, not dimming. I could see the street beyond and the trees moving a little in the wind. The salt dish sat in its spot near the door. It was half empty. I'd filled it yesterday, all the way to the rim. 24 hours ago it had been full, and this morning it was still full when I checked it before work. Now it looked like someone had scooped out half the salt and left the rest. I unlocked the door and stepped outside. The air was freezing. I crouched next to the dish and touched the salt. It was damp again, clumped together, same as it had been yesterday morning, but there was less of it, a lot less. I stood up and looked around. No footprints, no marks on the porch, no sign anyone had been here. I went back inside, locked the door, and refilled the dish with the rock salt bag from the kitchen, brought it back out and set it down. Went back to bed, but didn't sleep. Just lay there staring at the ceiling until the sky started turning gray outside the window. When daylight came, the whole thing felt distant. I got up at 7, made instant coffee, ate a granola bar standing at the counter, checked my phone. Full service, no missed calls, nothing weird. Just a couple emails from work and a text from Teresa asking if I was settling in okay. I didn't answer it yet. The night felt like something that had happened to someone else, or something I'd imagined while half asleep. My brain wanted to file it under stress or bad dreams or coincidence, even though I knew I'd been awake the whole time. Even though the salt dish had been half empty and I'd refilled it at 1:20 in the morning. I got dressed and went outside to move the U-Haul trailer to the side of the driveway. I'd been meaning to do it since Thursday. Needed to unhitch it and call the rental place in Susanville to arrange a drop-off. I walked down the porch steps and stopped. There was a line across the asphalt, pale, dull, chalky looking. It ran from the edge of my driveway across the street toward the neighbor's yard, maybe 20 feet long and perfectly straight. I stood there looking at it. It wasn't chalk. Chalk would have smudged or blown away by now with the wind. This looked like it had been drawn with something thicker. Paint, maybe. Or some kind of powder that had settled into the texture of the road. The rules said, never step on pale strips in the street that look like chalk lines but aren't. Cross the street or go around the block to avoid them. I stepped over it, carefully. Lifted my foot higher than I needed to and planted it on the other side, then brought my other foot over. That was it. That was all I did. But it felt like a victory, A small one. Stupid, maybe. But I'd seen the thing the rules warned about, and I'd followed the instruction, and nothing bad happened. I hitched the trailer and backed the Subaru down the driveway, then pulled forward and parked on the street a few houses down where the line didn't reach. Grabbed my keys and walked back, stepping over the line again on the way. Inside, I checked the salt dish. Still full. Still dry. I sat at the kitchen table and pulled out my phone. Teresa's text was still sitting there. "Hey, how's the new place? You surviving the small town life yet?" I started typing a response. Stopped. Deleted it. What was I supposed to say? If I said it was fine, she'd know I was lying. Teresa could always tell. If I said it was weird, she'd ask questions. If I told her the truth about the rules, the knocking, the salt dish, the line in the street, she'd think I'd lost it. Or she'd get worried and drive up here. And I didn't know if that would make things worse. The rules didn't say anything about talking. They didn't say don't tell people outside town. They just said don't say the old name out loud within town limits. But Dalton had been careful. Lauren had been careful. Holly hadn't explained anything. Maybe talking was part of it. Maybe that was a rule they didn't write down. I set the phone on the table and stared at Teresa's text. Even talking could be a trap. Teresa called around noon on Saturday. I saw her name on the screen and almost didn't answer. My thumb hovered over the decline button for a couple seconds. Then I figured ignoring her would make things worse, so I picked up. "Hey," I said. "Finally." Her voice was bright, familiar. "I was starting to think you fell off the map up there." I was standing in the kitchen with the salt bag still open on the counter. I'd refilled the dish again that morning, third time in 4 days. "Service is spotty," I said, which wasn't even a lie. It had been spotty, just not right now. "How's the place?" "Fine. It's good. Quiet." "Quiet like peaceful or quiet like creepy?" I almost laughed. Almost said something about the rules, about how quiet didn't cover it when your smoke detector chirped 2 minutes before something knocked its way around your house at 1 a.m. The words were right there. I could feel them lined up, ready to go. Then I stopped. The rule about the town's old name sat in my head, like a flashing sign. Don't say it out loud, anywhere within town limits. If someone asks what the town used to be called, say, "You don't know." I didn't even know the old name. But the fact that there was a rule about it, specific and clear, made me think about how easy it would be to slip, to say the wrong thing without meaning to break something just by talking. Teresa was still waiting. "Peaceful," I said. "Just takes some getting used to." "You unpacked yet?" "Most of it. Still have some boxes." "How's the job?" "It's fine. Invoices, spreadsheets, same kind of stuff." She paused. I could hear traffic in the background on her end, maybe a radio, normal city noise. "You sound weird," she said. "I'm tired. Long week." "You'd tell me if something was wrong, right?" I looked at the salt dish through the doorway, full, dry, sitting in its little depression on the porch. "Yeah," I said, "of course." Another pause, longer this time. Then she sighed. "Okay, well, I'm glad you're settling in. Let me know if you need anything." "I will." "Love you." "You too." I ended the call and set the phone on the counter. My hand was tight around it the whole time. I hadn't realized until I let go. I stared at the screen for a minute, then put the phone in my pocket and closed the salt bag. That was it. Short, general, nothing specific. I didn't feel good about it, but I didn't know what else to do. An hour later, someone knocked on the door. I was in the bedroom trying to figure out where to put my desk when I heard it. 3 normal knocks. Daytime knocks, not the wrong kind. I checked my phone. 1:47 p.m., safe. I walked to the door and looked through the peephole. Holly stood on the porch with her clipboard. I opened the door halfway. "Hey." She didn't smile, didn't really acknowledge the greeting, just looked at me with that flat expression she'd had when she handed over the keys. "I need a few minutes," she said. "For what?" "Lease adjustment." I didn't move. I already signed the lease. "There's an addendum." She held up the clipboard. A single sheet of paper was clipped to it. Printed text with a signature line at the bottom. "Rent increase. Seasonal demand." I blinked. "Seasonal demand. Correct. For what season?" "It's standard." I leaned against the doorframe and crossed my arms. Half the town was empty. I'd driven through it enough times now to be sure. Storefronts with blank windows, houses that looked maintained but felt wrong. No one walking around, no cars most of the time. "How much?" I asked. $200 a month. "That's not seasonal. That's 25%. It reflects current market conditions." I stared at her. She stared back. Her face didn't move. "I'm not signing that," I said. Her jaw tightened. Just a little. Then she glanced past me toward the street like she'd heard something. I turned to look. Nothing there. Just the empty road, the neighbor's house, the trees moving in the wind. When I turned back, she was still looking. Her eyes tracked something I couldn't see. She stood completely still, head tilted slightly like she was listening. "Holly." She blinked and focused on me again. "You'll want to reconsider." "I don't think I will." Another glance toward the street. Faster this time. Then back to me. "The addendum is voluntary," she said. Her voice was tight, clipped, but I'd recommend signing. "Why?" She didn't answer, just kept looking at me, then past me, then back. Her hand on the clipboard was white at the knuckles. "Are you okay?" I asked. "Fine." She took a step back. "I'll leave this with you. You can drop it at the P.O. box when you're ready." She set the clipboard on the porch railing, turned, and walked to her car without saying anything else. I watched her get in, back out, and drive away. She didn't look at me again. I picked up the clipboard and brought it inside. The addendum was 2 paragraphs of dense legal text about fluctuating overhead costs and regional adjustments. None of it made sense for a town this size. None of it lined up with the lease I'd already signed. I folded it in half and left it on the kitchen counter next to the rules. I needed groceries, so I drove back to the general store around 3. Lauren was at the register when I walked in. Same apron, same reading glasses. I grabbed a basket and nodded at her. "Afternoon?" She looked up. Her face was blank, polite, like she was looking at a stranger. "Afternoon," she said. Flat. Neutral. I stopped. "Everything okay?" "Fine. Let me know if you need help finding anything." She looked back down at whatever she was reading behind the counter. I stood there for a couple seconds waiting for her to say something else. She didn't. I walked toward the back, past the canned goods and the cleaning supplies, to the hardware counter. Dalton was there. Same spot as before. Same faded work shirt. "Hey," I said. He glanced up, then immediately looked back down at the invoice he was marking. Didn't say anything. "Dalton?" "Busy right now." His voice was flat, clipped. Not rude exactly, just closed off. I set the basket on the floor. "What's going on?" "Nothing's going on. You need something from the hardware section?" "I need to know why everyone's acting like I don't exist." He kept his eyes on the invoice. His pen didn't move. "Don't know what you mean." Lauren just looked at me like she's never seen me before. "You won't make eye contact." "What changed?" He set the pen down, slowly. Then he looked at me. His face was tired, worn. The circles under his eyes looked darker than they had a couple days ago. "You're still here," he said. "That's all that matters." That's not an answer. It's the one you get. He picked the pen back up. Anything else? I stared at him. He didn't look up again. I grabbed the basket and walked back to the front, got bread, eggs, a couple cans of soup, brought it all to Lauren's register. She rang me up without a word. I paid. She handed me the receipt. Thanks, I said. She nodded, didn't say anything. I left. I didn't want to go home yet. My head felt tight, buzzing like I'd had too much coffee. I got in the Subaru and just started driving. I figured I'd head toward the National Forest, get out of town for a bit, clear my head. I pulled up the GPS on my phone and picked a trailhead about 20 minutes northeast. The route loaded. I followed it. 2 miles out, the GPS recalculated, rerouting. I frowned and kept going, figuring it was a missed turn. A minute later, it recalculated again, then again. I pulled over and checked the map. The trailhead was right there. The road was marked. I should have been heading straight toward it, but every time I followed the directions, the app rerouted me back toward town. I tried a different trailhead. Same thing. Rerouting. I set the phone down and just drove. No GPS. Just followed the road signs. 10 minutes later, I was on Main Street again. I hadn't turned around, hadn't chosen to come back. I'd been heading east, away from town, following a road that should have taken me into the forest. But here I was. I pulled into a parking spot and sat there with the engine running. My phone showed full bars, 5 out of 5. I tried calling Teresa. The call dropped immediately. I tried again. Same thing. Didn't even ring. Just cut off. I checked the signal. Still full bars. I sat there for another minute, staring at the empty street, the empty storefronts, the flower boxes that someone kept watering, even though half the town looked abandoned. Then I drove home. There was another note on the doormat. I saw it as soon as I pulled into the driveway. White paper, same as before. No envelope, no stamp. Just sitting there, held down by a different stone this time. Smaller, rounder. I got out of the car and walked up to the porch. The salt dish was still full. I checked it first. Dry, white, level with the rim. Then I picked up the stone and grabbed the paper. This one was handwritten. Black ink, neat block letters, same printer paper stock. It said, "You stepped over the chalk line. You are marked now. The cemetery gate must be touched with iron before sunrise. Palmer Road, front gate. Touch it with the bar. Do not enter. If you don't, the mark stays." I read it twice. My hands weren't shaking. I thought they should be, but they weren't. I folded the paper in half and looked at the street. The pale line was still there. Fainter now, maybe, but still visible. I'd stepped over it yesterday morning when I moved the trailer. Careful, exaggerated steps, both feet clear. I'd followed the rule. But apparently that wasn't enough. I went inside, set the groceries on the counter, and unfolded the note again. The cemetery gate, Palmer Road. Touch it with iron before sunrise. I thought about the pry bar Dalton had sold me. The one he'd specifically said should be iron, not steel. The one I'd put in the coat closet without knowing why I'd need it. Now I knew. I looked at the clock on the microwave. 4:32 p.m. Sunrise was probably around 6:30, maybe 7. That gave me tonight. One night to figure out where Palmer Road was, find the cemetery, and touch a gate with a piece of iron. Or the mark stayed. Whatever that meant. I sat down at the kitchen table and smoothed the note flat in front of me. The rules were tightening. Each one led to another. Each mistake, if stepping over the line even counted as a mistake when I'd done it right, pulled me deeper. I stared at the handwritten letters until they stopped looking like words. Then I got up, grabbed my keys, and pulled the iron bar from the closet. It was heavier than I remembered. I brought the iron pry bar inside and set it on the kitchen counter next to the rock salt bag. 4:32 in the afternoon. Plenty of time before sunrise, but I wasn't waiting until the last minute. I went through the house and shut every blind, pulled every curtain closed, checked the windows were latched. The pale line was still out there in the street. I'd stepped over it. That was the problem. The note said I was marked now. I sat on the futon and stared at the bar sitting on the counter across the room. Dalton had known. He'd pulled it from the pegboard without me asking for it specifically, just told me to get iron, not steel. I wondered how many other people had bought that same bar for the same reason, how many had made it to the cemetery gate in time. The sun dropped behind the mountains. I made instant ramen and ate it standing at the counter because sitting down felt wrong, like I'd get too comfortable and forget what I was supposed to do. I checked my phone every few minutes. 5:15, 5:43, 6:08. The sky outside went orange, then purple, then dark. I kept thinking about the chalk line. The rules said don't step on it, cross the street, or go around the block. I'd crossed the street. I'd stepped over it, not on it. But apparently that wasn't enough. Apparently proximity mattered. Or maybe the rule was absolute. Don't interact with it at all, don't acknowledge it, pretend it doesn't exist. I treated it like an obstacle. That was the mistake. At 11:40, I was still sitting on the futon, fully dressed with my boots on, staring at the pry bar. My phone sat next to me on the blanket. The house was quiet. No wind tonight. Just the fridge hum and occasional creak from the floorboards settling. I got up and grabbed the rock salt bag from the kitchen. The rules said keep the dish full. They said don't let it get wet. They didn't say anything about putting it anywhere else, but Dalton had been careful. Lauren had been careful. Maybe they couldn't tell me things directly. Maybe the rules only allowed so much help. I opened the front door and checked the dish. Still full, still dry. I'd refilled it that morning after getting back from the failed drive. I brought the entire bag inside, twisted the top closed, and set it on the floor. Then I opened it again. The salt poured in a thick white line across the threshold inside the door, from one side of the door frame to the other. I made it maybe 2 inches wide. Continuous. No gaps. I did the same thing at the back door, pouring carefully until the line was solid and even. The bag was half empty when I finished. I stood in the kitchen looking at the line I'd just made. The rules hadn't said to do this. But the rules also said follow them and stay out of the way when required. And I was marked now, which meant I'd already screwed up. The extra salt felt like insurance, like adding a deadbolt when the lock wasn't enough. I washed my hands, dried them on my jeans, and sat back down on the futon. My phone showed 11:58. At midnight, I turned off all the lights. The house went dark except for the faint glow from my phone screen. I set it face down on the blanket and waited. 1:05, 1:08, 1:10. At 1:11, I was sitting completely still with my hands flat on my knees, staring at the far wall where I knew the window was, even though the blinds were closed. My breathing was quiet, shallow. I wasn't looking at anything, except I was. The blinds didn't close all the way. There was a gap, maybe half an inch where the slats didn't quite meet the windowsill on the left side. I hadn't noticed it before, hadn't thought to check. But now I could see a thin slice of the street through it, just a narrow strip of asphalt lit by the porch light across the road. And standing in the middle of that strip was a figure, a man, wearing a reflective vest, completely still. I stopped breathing. The vest should have been catching light from the street lamp, bouncing it back in sharp, bright angles the way safety gear does. But it wasn't reflecting anything. It was glowing, faint, but wrong. Like the light was coming from inside the fabric instead of bouncing off it. A dull, greenish white that didn't move or flicker, just sat there on his chest and shoulders in a static haze. I couldn't see his face. The angle was wrong and the gap was too narrow. Just his torso, the vest, and the fact that he wasn't moving at all. Not shifting weight, not breathing. just standing. The rule said if you see a man in a reflective vest standing completely still in the middle of the road, go into the nearest bathroom immediately and run the faucet. Keep it running until you hear a car pass. Don't look at him again. I was already looking. I tore my eyes away from the gap and stood up fast. Too fast. My knee cracked, and I almost tripped over the futon frame. I went straight to the bathroom, flipped the light on, shut the door behind me, and turned the faucet all the way to the right. Cold water hit the sink basin hard and loud, splashing up onto the counter. I stepped back and leaned against the door, hands pressed flat against the wood behind me, listening. The water ran. That was it. Just water hitting porcelain, the pipes humming faintly in the wall. Then the knocking started. 3 taps. Pause. 3 taps. But it wasn't coming from outside. It was coming from the other side of the bathroom door, right behind me, right where my shoulders were pressed against the wood. I shoved forward away from the door and spun around. The door was still closed, still latched. But the knocking continued. 3 taps. Pause. 3 taps. Light at first. Polite almost. Then it got faster. The taps turned into scratching. Fingernails on wood. Not frantic. Deliberate. Like someone testing the surface. Figuring out how thick it was. How much pressure it would take to go through. The rule said run the faucet until you hear a car pass. It didn't say anything about knocking. It didn't say what to do if the thing outside got inside. I looked at the window above the toilet. Frosted glass, latched shut. I looked at the vent in the ceiling where I'd installed the cheap fan 2 days ago. I looked at the door where the scratching was getting louder, harder, the rhythm breaking apart into something impatient. The salt. I'd poured lines across both thresholds, front door and back door. I'd sealed the entrances, and I'd trapped whatever followed the schedule inside the house with me. My hand found the pry bar in my pocket. I'd put it there without thinking after the sun went down, shoved it through my belt loop so the weight pulled against my hip. I yanked it out now, gripped it in my right hand, and stared at the door. The scratching stopped. I waited. 5 seconds. 10. Then the doorknob turned. Slow, smooth, all the way to the right until the latch clicked free. I didn't wait for it to open. I grabbed the knob with my left hand, turned it back, and shoved the door outward as hard as I could. The hallway was empty, but the air was wrong. Metallic, wet, like the smell of rain on iron, thick enough I could taste it at the back of my throat. I moved fast. Didn't think about it. Just went. Down the hallway. Past the kitchen, past the salt line I'd poured across the threshold that was still there. Still unbroken. I grabbed my keys from the counter, shoved my phone in my pocket, and yanked the front door open. The porch was clear. The street was empty. The figure in the vest was gone. I didn't stop. I went down the steps, across the yard, straight to the Subaru, parked 3 houses down where I'd left it yesterday to avoid the chalk line. I unlocked it, got in, started the engine, and pulled away from the curb before my door was fully closed. The cemetery, Palmer Road, touched the gate with iron before sunrise. I didn't know where Palmer Road was, but I wasn't stopping to check my phone. I turned left at the end of Ponderosa and drove toward Main Street, scanning every cross street for a sign. The clock on the dash showed 1:23. Sunrise was maybe 5 hours away. Plenty of time. Except I had to steer around the chalk line. It was still there, cutting across the asphalt 2 blocks ahead, where the street lamp caught it. But now it looked brighter, almost luminous. The dull white glow sat on the pavement in a way that didn't match the light around it, didn't fade at the edges the way normal paint would. I slowed down, turned right, a block early, and took the parallel street instead. Came out on Main and kept going north, past the general store, past the diner, past the empty storefronts with their blank windows. Palmer Road was on the left, just past the post office, Small green sign, easy to miss. I turned onto it and followed it east out of town, past the last few houses, past a field with a barbed wire fence, past a grove of cottonwoods that looked black in the dark. The cemetery gate appeared a quarter-mile later on the right, chain link, maybe 6 feet tall, with a simple arched frame and a gravel drive leading up to it. No lights, no sign. Just the gate and the fence running off into the weeds on either side. I pulled onto the gravel and stopped 10 feet from the gate, left the headlights on, and got out with the pry bar still in my hand. The gate was covered in keys, dozens of them, hooked through the chain link wire, hanging at different heights, swaying faintly even though there was no wind. House keys, car keys, some on rings, some alone, all of them old, tarnished, the metal dull and spotted with rust. I stood there staring at them, and I understood. The rule said if you break a rule, drive to the cemetery, leave your house key on the front gate, and do not go home. Not temporarily. Period. These were the people who'd broken the rules, or tried to leave, or stepped on the chalk lines, answered the knocking, looked outside during the wrong minutes. All the people who used to live in those empty houses with the perfect lawns and the wrong-feeling porches. The town's emptiness had a cost, and it was measured in keys. I walked up to the gate and pressed the flat edge of the pry bar against the post where the latch was bolted. The iron was cold, heavier than it should have been, and the contact made a faint ringing sound that didn't fade the way metal on metal normally does. I pulled my house key off my ring, just the one. Left the car key and the mailbox key and the little bottle opener Teresa gave me last Christmas. I set the house key on the top rail of the gate, balanced it there, and stepped back. The air shifted behind me. Not wind, not movement, just a change in pressure, like the space had been empty, and now it wasn't. I turned around. The figure in the reflective vest was standing 30 feet away, just past the edge of my headlights, motionless, facing me. He hadn't walked up, hadn't driven. He was just there. Too far away to have moved from the road back in town, too close to have appeared from nowhere. The vest glowed faintly in the dark. That same greenish-white non-reflection that didn't belong on safety gear. I couldn't see his face. The light didn't reach that far. Just the vest, the shape of shoulders, the outline of a body that stood too still. The rule said, don't look at him again. I'd already looked. I gripped the pry bar in both hands, stepped forward, and hooked the curved end through the vest strap across his chest. The fabric was cold, slick, wrong texture, like vinyl that had been left in a freezer. I yanked the bar sideways, dragged the vest toward the gate, and slammed the iron against the chain link post. The vest hissed, not air escaping, not fabric tearing, a hiss like water hitting hot metal, sharp and immediate, and the strap tightened under the bar, pulled inward, cinched down against the iron like it was trying to get away. I held it there, pressed the bar harder against the post, grinding the vest material between iron, and the shape inside the vest started collapsing, not falling, collapsing, folding inward from the chest, the shoulders pulling down and in, the whole outline compressing like something was sucking the structure out from the center. The hissing got louder. The vest fabric started smoking, thin gray wisps curling up from where the iron touched it, and the smell hit me. Burnt plastic and wet rust and something else I didn't have a name for. I didn't let go. The shape kept collapsing, bending wrong, the joints going at angles that didn't match a human frame. And then the vest just sagged, went slack against the bar. Empty. I pulled the bar back. The vest fell onto the gravel in a crumpled heap. No body, no bones, just fabric. I stood there breathing hard, hands still locked around the pry bar, staring at the pile of reflective material lying in the dirt. The sky was getting lighter. Not sunrise yet, but close. that pale gray that comes right before the orange starts. I looked down at the vest. It was breaking apart, the edges curling inward, the fabric turning to powder, fine gray dust that lifted slightly in the still air and settled back down onto the gravel. In 30 seconds, there was nothing left but a faint stain on the ground and a smell I knew I wasn't going to forget. Behind me, the keys on the gate stopped swaying. I turned around. They were completely still now, hanging straight down, motionless. My house key was gone. The top rail was empty. I checked the ground, checked the gravel, checked around the post. Nothing. The key had just disappeared. The gate latch clicked. I stepped back. Nobody touched it. But the latch flipped up on its own, smooth and deliberate, and the gate swung open maybe 6 inches before stopping. I didn't go inside. The rule said, "Do not enter." I walked back to the Subaru, set the pry bar on the passenger seat, and sat behind the wheel with the door open and my boots on the gravel. The sky kept getting lighter. The cemetery behind the gate was just rows of low headstones and dried grass. Nothing moving, nothing wrong. At 6:45, the sun came up over the ridge to the east, orange and clean, and I started the engine. I drove straight to Holly's office. It was a single-story building on the south end of Maine with a sign that said, "Davis Property Management" in brass letters next to the door. Her white Accord was already in the lot. I parked next to it, grabbed the lease packet and the addendum from the passenger seat, and went inside. Holly was sitting at a desk near the back, typing something on a desktop computer that looked 15 years old. She looked up when I walked in. "I'm ending the lease," I said. "I want my deposit back." She blinked. "I'm sorry?" "The lease, I'm ending it. $800 deposit. I want it back today." She stood up, smoothed her blazer, and tilted her head slightly. "Mr. Stevenson, your lease term is 12 months. Early termination incurs a penalty of 1 month's rent, which would be deducted from—" "You brought me an addendum 2 days ago," I said. "You told me to sign it. You stood on my porch and looked at the street like you were waiting for something." Her face went blank, polite, confused. "I don't recall bringing you an addendum." I set the paper on her desk. "This one." She picked it up, skimmed it, set it back down. "This isn't our standard form. You handed it to me yourself." "I think you're mistaken." Her voice was flat, professional, like she genuinely didn't remember, like the conversation had never happened. I stared at her. She stared back, calm and empty. "Fine," I said. "Forget the addendum. I'm still leaving. Deduct whatever you want. I'll pick up the check this afternoon." "Of course," she said. "I'll have it ready by 3. I turned and walked out. The sun was all the way up now, bright and normal, and the air smelled like dust and sage instead of metal and wet rust. Dalton was standing next to my car. He had his arms crossed, leaning against the Subaru's hood, wearing the same faded work shirt and fire department jacket I'd seen at the hardware counter. He didn't say anything when I walked up, just looked at me. "The mark," I said. "Is it gone?" "Shifted," he said. "Burned off when you pressed the vest to the iron. Risky method. Most people just touch the gate and leave the key. Slow containment. You forced direct contact. Did it work? You're still here." He pushed off the hood, straightened up. "Gate opened on its own?" I nodded. "Then it worked." He looked past me toward Holly's office, then back. "You leaving?" "Yeah." "Good." He started to walk away, stopped, turned back. "The key's gone. You know that, right? It's not coming back." "I know. You'll need a locksmith. Alturas has one on North Main. Get it cut before you go back to the house." "Okay." He nodded once, then walked across the lot toward a pickup truck parked near the street. Didn't say goodbye, didn't wish me luck. Just got in and drove off. I sat in the Subaru for a minute, hands on the wheel, staring at the dashboard. Then I started the engine and drove to Alturas. The locksmith was right where Dalton said. Small shop. Guy in his 60s with reading glasses and a pegboard full of blank keys. I gave him my car key and told him I needed a house key cut to match a standard quickset deadbolt. He didn't ask questions. Made the copy in 3 minutes, charged me $8, and I was back on the road by 11. I packed everything I could fit in the Subaru. The futon stayed. The desk stayed. Most of the boxes stayed. I took my clothes, my laptop, the important documents, and the pry bar. I left the rock salt on the kitchen counter next to the empty dish. At 12:15, I locked the front door with the new key, set it on the kitchen counter inside, and left through the back. I didn't owe the house a key anymore. The cemetery had taken the original. This one was mine. I got in the Subaru, backed out of the driveway, and drove west on Main Street in full daylight. Past the general store, past the diner, past the empty storefronts and the flower boxes and the pressure-washed sidewalks that looked perfect and wrong. At the town limit, I crossed into the next county and my phone buzzed. I glanced down. Full signal. 4 bars. GPS loading. I pulled over onto the shoulder and opened the map. The trailhead I'd tried to reach 2 days ago was right there, 20 minutes northeast, route displayed clearly with no errors. I closed the app and kept driving. By 8 that night, I was in a motel off I-5 just south of Reading. Single bed, thin walls, ice machine humming outside the door. I sat on the edge of the mattress and checked my phone. No missed calls, no weird notifications. The number at the top of the screen was mine, the right one, the one I'd had for 6 years. And it hadn't tried to call itself since I left. I opened my banking app and checked the balance. The deposit was gone. Holly had deducted a full month's rent for early termination plus a cleaning fee I was pretty sure she made up. I had enough left to cover maybe 2 weeks in a cheap motel and gas to get wherever I was going next. I didn't have a job anymore. I'd signed a contract for solar project admin work that required me to live within commuting distance of Alturas. I'd left. That was breach of contract. They'd sent an email that afternoon with the subject line termination notice, and I'd deleted it without reading past the first line. I didn't have an explanation I could give anyone. Not Teresa, not a future employer, not anyone who asked why I left a decent-paying job after 1 week. I couldn't say the town had rules. I couldn't say I got marked for stepping over a chalk line. I couldn't say I dragged something in a reflective vest against an iron gate and watched it collapse into dust. Not without sounding like I'd lost it. Not without risking the wrong words. I set my phone on the nightstand, turned off the light, and lay down on top of the covers, fully dressed. The room was quiet. Just the ice machine and the distant hum of the freeway. I closed my eyes. The phone didn't ring.